Stephanie, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a book review for The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I read it a couple times when I was in high school and around that age, but I haven't read it in probably at least 5-7 years. So it was definitely time for a reread, and I decided that I was going to reread the whole trilogy and The Hobbit this year, and I am so glad that I did. I felt like I was coming home when I started reading The Fellowship of the Ring. It opens up, just going back to the Shire, and it's so beautiful. When I first read this book, it felt like it was so slow and that it took so long to actually get to the plot and what's going to happen next. But looking back and rereading it this time, I realized that Tolkien did that on purpose because the Shire is at stake. If this ring does not get destroyed, this is what could be lost. And it's this beautiful community of hobbits and animals and woods and greenery and lushness and this whole entire way of life that could just be wiped out because power corrupted someone. And going through the book, seeing all these cities and cultures that could be lost if Frodo and his friends don't succeed is just heartbreaking. And I didn't catch that the first time I read it. I still enjoyed it and I loved the trilogy, but I did not get the little nuances and the overall themes that Tolkien was trying to convey. One thing that I did not really enjoy was Tom Bombadil, and I completely forgot about him because they completely cut him out for the movies, which I understand why. As a character, I can appreciate him, but there are so many song breaks, especially with him. And I appreciate what he added to the story, but he's on the con list for me. He's a little irritating. And the entire theme of this trilogy is how power can corrupt people and how it might corrupt people in different ways. And I loved that the hobbits were the ones chosen to carry the ring because they don't want power. They just want their idyllic, peaceful life, and that made them the perfect people to take the ring to Mordor. And that says so much to me that sometimes the people who don't want power are the people who should have some power and make the world a better place. There's definitely a lot of things in here that you can relate to today's culture and political climate and all that, which I won't get into, but draw your own conclusions. You just get a love for these characters and fall in love with them the more you read, and the stakes are just so high for them that when bad things happen or when they're trying to escape the orcs or something, you're just on the edge of your seat. And even if you know what happens, you're still just like, oh my gosh, I need them to get out of here, okay, because they're my favorite beings. I also think this book has such a beautiful portrayal of friendship these characters just love each other so much. Like when Frodo tried to sneak away to go on the journey himself, Merry and Pippin stopped him and were like, no, we're coming with you no matter what. We know we're probably going to die, but we're still going to go with you because you're our friend. And it just is so wonderful to see that level of loyalty and dedication and love between characters. And even Sam, who I completely forgot this until I reread the book, but he's actually an acquaintance of Frodo at the beginning. He's not even a friend. And they just grow to become such close friends that you just completely forget that for like 50 years of Frodo's life, they weren't really friends. And now they're just bonded together. And they're in this fight. And they're gonna do it no matter what. And it's just phenomenal. I know Frodo gets a lot of hate. And I get that. But I really appreciate him as a character because he's from the Shire. All he wants to do is live his life in peace in the Shire. Doesn't want to go on this huge quest, but he decides to go. You know, Gandalf tells him you need to go. And even at the council meeting when they're figuring out who's going to take the ring to Mordor, you can tell Frodo was really hesitant, but then he just knew it had to be him. And if I were in that situation, I don't even think I could do that. So I really appreciate Frodo's bravery and the fact that he keeps pushing himself outside his comfort zone because he knows that it's for the good of his family and friends and for the entire world, Middle Earth. And I feel like even if you don't like Frodo as a character, you do need to give him credit for that. I know sometimes his choices or his attitude isn't the best, but just the fact that he took this on knowing that it's something that he needs to do is so touching and empowering. And I really appreciate him as a character for that. I just feel like I'm not making a lot of progress in this book review, but these books are just so magical and so inspirational. Even if you don't like the series, I think you definitely have to give Tolkien his due that he has influenced so many things, even beyond fantasy. Like, you can see his influence in so many aspects of media and life and art. And just the world he created is so vast and rich. Just a little itty bitty book review that I'm making isn't going to do it any kind of justice at all. But I will say this is a slow book, and it is intentional because I think Tolkien's setting you up to realize what is at stake. And he wants you to really soak it up so that you also have a vested interest in the world that could possibly be destroyed if the Fellowship of the Ring fails. And I did not appreciate that the first few times I read it. But this time I did, and I got so much more out of it than I expected. And I know this book review isn't like the typical book review, like here are some pros, here are some cons, but This series is so hard because it's so beloved by so many people, including myself, and it's taken on a life of its own. And so for me, it's hard to do a really analytical, like, sit down and look at every aspect of this book, because I'm so attached to it and I love it, and every time I read it I get something new out of it. So I'm really excited to jump into The Two Towers and see how my views have changed since I read it last time. And hopefully this book review wasn't horrible to watch, but I'm just still so in awe of Tolkien and what he's done, and how his life influenced his writing, and how his writing is still so relevant to today, and he's still inspiring so many people today and will continue to do so. Like, I don't think I've seen like a list of like the top 20 fantasies or top 50 fantasies of all time where Lord of the Rings is not in the top 3. It is that influential. So even if you don't like it, I think you do have to respect what it's done. And you know, I personally just think if you're reading it, just push through the song breaks and appreciate the slow parts, because that's what gets you vested in this world and gets you attached so that you're a stakeholder in what happens. And then that makes the action scenes feel so much more impactful, because you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose something, I can't take this, and keeps you on the edge of your seat. And I just think it's gonna continue getting better throughout my reread, but hopefully this was enjoyable for you. Have you read The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring? If so, let me know. If you didn't like it, why didn't you like it? I'd love to talk to you guys about it in the comments. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.